I'm sure you have all heard the environmentalists talk about public transportation and why it is so important to quit flying and use your car as little as possible. But why is it so much better to utilize public transportation? Public transportation is great for many reasons, for environmental sake and for our health. Taking public transportation and skipping airlines can reduce greenhouse gas emissions. In the US alone, transportation accounts for roughly 30% of greenhouse gases. If more people switch to public transportation, more people could be transported for fewer emissions. Most railways produce 60 to 70% less greenhouse gases than a single passenger car. It can also save energy and resources. It obviously saves on fuel and road space, but it also decreases the demand for new construction projects, new vehicles, the extraction of oil, and infrastructure such as bridges and parking garages. The transportation industry is one of the main consumers of energy in the United States. But there are other benefits to taking public transportation other than for the environment. You can get more exercise by taking buses, trains, or even biking on your commute. Less vehicles on the road also means less noise and more quiet for people living in cities. Public transportation can improve air quality by getting more vehicles off the road. This can reduce health risks, especially to those living in those metropolitan areas where there are a lot of vehicles. The reduced amount of toxins in the air can improve the health of those citizens in the area and also reduce smog. Most railway systems produce little to no pollution since most are powered by electricity. Many buses that used to run off of diesel fuel are now being transitioned into running off of natural gas or other bio and hybrid diesel. And of course, most cars, to include taxis and Ubers, are becoming hybrids as well. While the US transportation industry contributes to about 30% of their greenhouse gases, Japan's transportation industry contributes to only about half of that. Granted, the US does have more citizens than Japan, but Japan has a much more thought out and intricate transportation system. They have buses, taxis, and rental bikes throughout all of their cities, as well as subways and high-speed trains to connect almost the entire country by train. While in the US, the public transportation system is poorly laid out with very few stops, and they are not connected from city to city. We all need to improve our public transportation systems to make them more easily accessible to citizens. This will cut costs in the long run, as well as prevent so many greenhouse gases from entering the atmosphere. Imagine if the United States had a better public transportation system, one with electric-powered trains and buses. We could reduce our amount of greenhouse gases from 30% to a much lower number. While it definitely is important to fly and use your personal car as little as possible, this is also not feasible for everyone. Not everyone lives in an area where public transportation is easily accessible. So what can you do if you don't have access to a good public transportation system? You can make small changes in your life. One thing is to get a hybrid car instead of a car that runs strictly off of gasoline or diesel. You can also carpool with your classmates or your coworkers. And of course, if your commute is not that long, you can ride a bike instead. You can also vote in your local and national elections. Vote for candidates who promise to make changes on the environmental level, and who might even want to improve our public transportation system. You could even start petitions and fundraisers to help fund your cities to get better public transportation where you live. And just remember, public transportation is not accessible to everybody, so do what you can, because even little changes have a big impact in the long run.